All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone, and we all welcome to this insightful webinar on balancing strategy control and innovation. And as we all know, this is being powered by the Institute of Leadership and Strategy. where we are passionate about developing managers into C-suite executives. I'm Ewuradwoa Owusu, and I'll be your moderator for today. But before we get into business for this evening, we just want to know who is on the call with us today. So we just want to interact with you briefly before we go into our business for today. Can we know who is joining us on the call today? You can just drop it in the chat box and let's know who is on the call with us. Just your name and then where you're joining us from. Okay, can we get some names and where you're joining us from? Let's interact briefly. All right. Okay, you can see some names coming through. All right, Stephen J says, thanks for the opportunity. We have Charity Tete says, grateful for this opportunity. Michelle Tieku is also on the call with us. Michelle is joining us from Adenta. We have Stephen J joining us from Takrade. Thank you, Stephen J. Raphael is joining us also. Grateful I am part of this program. All right, Raphael. We have Robert Anyabenu, NNS Accra. Thank you for joining us, Robert. All right. Thank you all so much for making time to join this insightful webinar. Justice also is on the call with us, joining in from Kufuridua. He says he's glad to be here. Thank you, Justice, for joining us this evening. Francis Opoku from Kumasi. Hi, Francis. Thank you for joining us. Michelle, also from Kumasi. Thank you all for joining us this evening. All right. Thank you also for joining us. This is the Institute of Leadership and Strategy, like I mentioned, and this is our ILS webinar series. As we promised, we bring this your way once every month. Once every month, we give you some free educative content so that we can also build our skills and be experts in our various fields. And as leaders and managers, we know that the landscape of strategy is constantly evolving. And today, more than ever, organizations are relying on strong, forward-thinking leaders to navigate complexity, foster innovation, and drive sustainable success. And this webinar has been carefully curated to address some of the most pressing challenges and opportunities facing managers and even professionals today. Whether you are here to gain fresh perspective, refine your strategic skills, or exchange ideas with like-minded professionals, you are in the right place today. Because today we have with us a strategy expert who has been doing this for a number of years. And so he's bringing on board some expertise to help us navigate our way through challenges. Our speaker, like I mentioned, brings on board a wealth of knowledge and experience to this matter. After he's engaged and had a hands-on experience with several organizations, he's in a better place to let us know how we can balance strategy control and innovation. I'll be handing over to him shortly. He will be giving his presentation, after which we'll have a Q&A session with him. And so if you have any questions, any add-ons, you can jot them down. Once our speaker is done, I'll take questions for him, and then I know that he'll be glad to address all our issues. All right, so I'll bring our speaker in shortly, but before that, I'll read his profile, then we can appreciate him better. Then I hand over to him. All right. Okay, so, all right, so our speaker, Michael Abbiw, is an accomplished enterprise development, marketing, and a strategy expert. He is a seasoned trainer and management consultant with over 20 years of professional experience in key areas of sales and marketing, business development, leadership development, customer service excellence, organizational development, and strategy development and execution. He is the CEO of MGA Consulting Ghana and Nigeria, leading efforts to develop businesses and professionals through strategic consultancy and training. He is the president-elect of the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana, CIMG, and the convener of the National Sales Leaders Conference, Ghana's premier marketing event, which gathered over 2,400 sales and marketing professionals across industries. Michael has successfully transformed organizations across MSMEs, banking, insurance, manufacturing, and government sectors, focusing on sales growth, leadership development, customer service, and corporate strategy. He holds multiple board positions at Telecel Ghana, Union Rural Bank, and the Ghana Association of Sales and Loan Companies. He holds an MPhil in Entrepreneurship and Corporate Strategy from the Methodist University Ghana and an MPhil in Business Administration from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Michael is deeply passionate about developing future leaders, imparting knowledge, and fostering professional excellence. Beyond his professional pursuits, he is highly social, charismatic, and values relationship and meaningful connections. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our facilitator for today's webinar, and he is in the person of Mr. Michael Abbiw. Mr. Abbiw, kindly take over, please. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Ewuradwoa, and thank you everyone that is online. I hope that we have a good time this evening. Today I'm treating a very simple but complex topic. How do we balance strategy, control, and innovation? So it's quite interesting. It's just that, so when you talk about strategy, control, and innovation, it's like how do we run and still stay still? And it's quite challenging. If we look at the current world we find ourselves, people are talking about it being volatile, it being complex, and the way it is rapidly changing. The business environment is really not staying static. Then it brings to question how businesses and institutions can be able to remain more effective through their strategies, but at the same time also more flexible with their innovations. So just a moment. So I'll be taking you to three key things, and unfortunately I have 30 minutes to be able to do that, and I'll try and stick within that environment. When we look at the environment as we have it today, you would realize that businesses are faced with a dilemma. By the end of the year, we plan and then we say that this is what we want to do in 2025. And I'm sure that's what all of us decided to do. And then we enter the year. Now, what we are faced with is how then do we implement those strategies in a way and manner as per how we envisaged it to be. And therefore, you would want all the forces, all the units, all the functional areas within the organization to be aligned in executing the strategy that you have developed. But at the same time, also, you are faced with this changing environment. For instance, a few years back, 2 years ago, we started the year, everybody had their plans in shape. And then we had a rapid decline of the CD to the dollar. How then do we manage such a situation? Do we continue to say that this is what we discussed, this is the plan we had, and therefore we should maintain those plans? Or do we now start looking at how then do we look at the changing environment, the falling CD or dollar, and how we can adjust our strategies to meet up with current times? Let me take you some few years back and cover it. Organizations like mine were more focused on capacity building, and those things, online training like what we have today, were not things that are fancied by various organizations. Everybody wanted face to face training, face to face capacity building, face to face interactions. And so we had our elaborate plans as we entered the year as consultants, as trainers, as capacity building organization. And then we were faced with fellow Ghanaians. As soon as the fellow Ghanaians came, What it meant was that people could not gather and we could not meet, and therefore you couldn't be able to execute whatever strategy that you have put in place. What do you do? So you realize that constantly, and not only these two events, but every single year, and as even we have begun the year, by March, even by the end of the first quarter, there are a number of things that would have happened to an organization. So you realize that we are always put between two key positions. One, staying within the strategy and making sure that we are executing the strategy as has been planned, which is very important for strategy development and growth. But on the other hand, also, how then do we remain relevant? We have those two, challenges and dilemma, and every year, managers are faced with this. There's a need to maintain your systems. There's a need to follow lay down structures and processes. And then there's also the need to be disciplined to ensure stability and allow you to be able to meet the objectives that you have set for the year. On the other hand, also, we need to also create environments where one can think, one can adapt, one can create in order to seize opportunities, for instance, that the market bring, in order to navigate some challenges that might come within any particular period in the strategy implementation process. Now, this topic brings into question the tension that always exists between control and innovation. Now, first, let's look at what these two things are. When we talk strategic control, we are talking about being able to create a sense of order. We're talking about the environment where you have a clear implementation plan to any strategic initiatives you want to produce, you want to implement within a year, and ensuring that you are following that structure, that system, those plans to its letter. It's strategic control is all about making sure that you do not get lost within the environment of the day-to-day activities and remaining focused on the objective and how you want to achieve the objective. But innovation looks at another thing that is completely different. It doesn't, it looks at freedom, not controlling your staff and the implementation of those strategies, but allowing people to be able to experiment, to be able to take risk, and to be able to find creative solutions as they move along the way. And we always see that it's within that environment of innovation that you realize that new things and breakthroughs happen. But one must note this. If you have too much control, you realize that you take away freedom, freedom to think, freedom to create, freedom to innovate. But also, if you allow innovation, you would realize that implementation or implementing your strategy is lost. What it then means is that every unit, every branch, every group within the organization will now be thinking about new things, and there might not be alignment because one of the key things about strategy development is strategy alignment. Now, why do we need to find this balance within these two areas? Why is it necessary that me and you must find a balance between strategic control and allowing for innovations? You see, organizations that focus too much on control become rigid and they become slow moving. Within those organizations, you realize that creativity is stifled. People are unable and not allowed to be able to develop things, new things, and think outside the box. They become robotic in nature. You find out that such environments have employees feeling boxed in, and therefore they sit down and they wait for instructions. On the other hand, also you realize that you then create an organization that is resistant to change. Now, if there's too much freedom, also you realize that your efforts become scattered. This person is doing this, that person is doing that, and sometimes because of the non-alignment of strategic initiatives and efforts, resources then become wasted. And then you realize that you would end the year and whatever objectives and strategies that you have set for yourself is not achieved, and execution becomes a problem because everybody is trying their hands at various things. So it is critical and important that we all find a way to balance strategy control with innovation. What is clear about these two is that both of them are what we term as creative disruption. Control would keep the ship steady. Control would make sure that the ship is on course to the destination at the point in which it must get, at what time it must get there. However, now innovation brings about that in case there is a storm, in case that there are opportunities ahead, in case that you see land and you see some new direction and a horizon that is better for the team, then you can be able to steer the ship towards that. Now, the question then is, how do leaders maintain balance between these two forces? And obviously, you would realize by now that both of them are critical and are important. Now, in finding the balance between control and innovation, it requires innovation and intentional effort. It is not something that happens on its own. You ought to be more intentional about it, because then your subordinates or the team would ask, but you said we should do this. You said we should follow the structures. Why are you introducing a new thing? So we need to have that understanding. Now, within my experience, there are some 6 principles that I want us to discuss that will guide our pursuit in achieving organizational balance between control and innovation. The first is what we term as you start with a clear mission and vision. According to one writer, Lewis Carroll, he said, if you do not know where you are going, any road will take you there. So it is important that we know where we are going, because without it, it's basically a recipe for chaos. To have the balance from the beginning, we need to have a clear, well communicated vision that ensures that innovation happens with purpose. So that vision must have within it where we want to go, but allow within that vision an environment of innovation with a purpose. We need to be able to allow people to innovate, but with a sense of direction. And that is what now we need to know and understand. A very clear vision. A lot of organizations, usually with my work, we get to encounter a lot more organizations and we try to review, for instance, what your vision is and what your mission is, and whether the vision and the mission have been clearly stated and it captures the true essence of what a vision and a mission should be. What we're saying is that in order to achieve strategic control and innovation, you need to have that clear vision that allows for innovation, but just not allow for innovation, but allows for innovation with a purpose. The second principle that you must also look at is ensuring that you are getting your team involved in the strategy development. When I'm doing a strategy and when I'm leading the strategy section for teams, one of the things that I recommend is what we call the cascading strategic planning model. Generally, what that means is that you build your strategy brick by brick, step by step. So, for instance, you start with your vision, and the vision must be clear. And this is communicated and built with your team. So we all must understand what the vision of the organization is. Then the second thing you do is now develop your mission. And the mission now emanates from that vision. And from there, you look for what are the values of the organization. And with these three, you now develop what we call the strategic focus, what others call the strategic pillars of the organization. So as you do your strategic pillars, it must encapsulate your vision, your mission, and the values of the organization. And then based on those strategic pillars, you can now determine what your objectives are. So you get your objectives, and then through the objectives, you then develop the strategic initiatives. From your strategic initiatives, you develop your tactics, the how and the actions that you are going to use to achieve those strategic initiatives. And then from there, you now do your implementation plan. Now, what we are saying is that if you go through it stage by stage, step by step, and then you do that with the involvement of your team, where you are looking at the strategic level strategies, the corporate level strategies, the business level strategies, the functional level strategies, and all these things are included. So, for instance, your marketing team must contribute to the strategic direction by allowing them to develop the strategies and the tactics that they are going to use on that functional level, and that is fed into the main strategy. And so we don't start the year and then you have your marketing team, or you have your finance team, or you have your operations team, or you have your auditors, or you have other units within the organization now coming up with strategies and ideas that are contrary to what the organization mindset is and the direction which the organization wants to go. It is important that when we are doing strategy and we want to have that balance, we get the team along, get them involved in the entire strategic development process. Do not do it and then go back to them and ask them to implement. That is under that environment that they will start thinking wild, thinking different, and thinking in a way that do not align to the strategic focus of the organization. Now, one of the things that I have observed, and it makes it easier for me to assess a strategy, is the third principle that I want to address today: creating a detailed implementation plan. You see, a lot of strategic documents, there's the mission, vision, the values, the strategic pillars, and the strategic initiatives, and that is that. Now, once you do that and you say, okay, this is the organizational strategy, and now I'm throwing it to people, go and do what you want to do, you would have an issue. And then the second level of getting involved is that you must then be able to cascade it to have the business level strategies and also include in it the functional level strategies. Now, once you have that, and you do not have a detailed strategy implementation plan about how you are going to execute all the strategic initiatives and the actions as has been proposed. If you don't have it that way, then you realize that anybody or everybody or everyone, all units would be implementing the strategy in the way they understand it, which might not give us that strategy alignment. You need to start thinking about, how do I implement the strategy at the strategic planning stage? At the strategic planning stage, an implementation plan is a key determinant of whether or not that strategy is effective or not. Now, if you want to achieve strategy control and innovation at the same time, then you need to have a clear plan. This plan must have, for instance, the specific steps that you are going to use in order to achieve those initiatives. This plan must have timelines. So if it's a 3-year strategy, if it's a 1-year strategy, what are you doing when? So in January, what are you starting with? What will you be starting at March? And when will you finish that? You must have those clear timelines. Another thing too, you must also have in that plan is who is responsible to implement what? Who are the responsible parties? And sometimes I even move on to say that, look at who is the immediate implementer, and then also which which units or individuals within the organization are supposed to provide input. You need to determine that. If you do that, you really gain what we call strategic alignment. And then also in your plan, you need to have what we call milestones, the key milestones that would guide the execution. So we are, today is 26th of March. What were we supposed to have achieved by your 2025 strategy? What were you supposed to achieve by now? What have we been able to do? What were the things that prevented us from doing this? You see, if you have a clear implementation plan, it serves to box everybody and keep everybody in line. So even within the environment of creativity, there is a room giving. However, there is a wall that prevents people from straying, out of the strategic focus of the organization. It is important. And sometimes when you do a good implementation plan, which is necessary for every strategic document, you realize that that implementation plan basically becomes like the blueprint. It becomes the grounds for strategic success. There are times I ask some of my customers, you see, when you meet in your weekly meetings, in your monthly meetings, the bi-weekly meetings, your quarterly meetings, what is the basis of that meeting? When you go and meet, are we just going to talk about what we have done and that is it? But that is not it. You must measure what you are doing, what you have been able to do, the challenges you have, as against an implementation plan which you should have developed. And therefore, even if you want to take wild, the implementation plan now gives direction as to how you must think and what your thinking must help to achieve. The fourth principle that I would want to communicate or I want to talk about is communicating the strategy. You must understand that clear communication, and I think this is the second time I'm talking about clear communication in strategic implementation process is vital for success. The entire team, those involved, must understand why each strategic initiative was developed, why it was accepted, why the organization is staying those course. When we talk about strategic communication, what are some of the things that we are talking about? The first thing is that we need to understand that we must ensure that every single staff involved in the implementation of a strategy understands the bigger picture. And therefore, in the room of innovation, in the room of creativity, they must all align to what end are we going? And therefore, all of them must have that communication. For instance, a strategy document ought to be shared based on the level of staff. It's so if it is a functional strategy, all the members within that functional group must have a copy. If it is a corporate strategy, and all senior managers must have a strategy document, they must have a copy, the blueprint, what they are measuring themselves with, they must have it, they must understand it, and they must understand the direction. Communication means that you need to get all of them aligned. Whether managers, supervisors, officers, everybody must understand and align themselves to the strategy. They ought to also be motivated with your communications to engage with the strategy. They must be interested to ask why. Why this? Why must we do this? Why should we understand this? They ought to be able to do that. And in that environment, within those communications, you must encourage them to ask questions. They must have clarity as to what is happening. And if they ask questions about the strategy, if you want to get strategic alignment, you want to balance the control with innovation, then you must be ready to answer them when the questions come regarding the strategic directions and the strategic initiatives that the company is proposing. And if the questions come, and if you answer them and there are issues, you must address those issues. Another way, which is the fifth principle of balancing control with innovation, is making sure that as leaders, we are staying in control. How do we do that? You need to establish clear KPIs for every single person, every single unit within the organization to track the progress of attaining or achieving those strategic goals. If this is what we want to do, and we are measuring that step by step, organization by organization, move by move, if we are tracking every single initiative, you would realize that you would then be getting people to think within the framework of where you want to go. And therefore, they know that we will be measured. They know that those details will be expected of us. They know that these numbers must be met. They know that these activities must be executed. So even within the environment of creativity and innovation and bringing new things into bear, they would be focused on also achieving those strategic initiatives. It must be visible. These KPIs, when you set them, it must be visible, and every single meeting must refer to these KPIs. So my advice is this: when anybody develops a strategy, once you have your strategic plan in place, on your weekly meetings, bi-weekly meetings, monthly meetings, quarterly meetings, review meetings, whatever meeting you have within the organization, the reference point, the Bible, what the organization must always have, the managers must have by their side, is your strategy. Are we moving along those lines? And the KPIs within those strategies are critical to ensuring that people innovate, but they innovate within the environment of the strategy. The last thing is that one, we must allow innovation, but within the strategic framework. Why? We know that business environment is consistently changing. And therefore, all organizations must be ready to change with it. So, for instance, when COVID hit, or when the international economic downturn came, once the war was started in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine, all those things were disruptive external, activities that would affect your local business, especially if you are within the international fray and those international activities affect your business greatly. You must understand that once these things happen, you must respond. So building the ability to rapidly respond to these market changes, to new technologies and technology advancements, to emerging consumer needs is actually very crucial to sustaining your organization today. So you must understand that in order to be relevant as a business owner, you must find a way to develop a strategic framework that basically, number one, aligns the initiatives to the contributions, the meaningful contributions of your team members. You must build a system that consistently would monitor and evaluate progress. And when there is a major depart from where we want to go and where we are now, the whole environment of monitoring and evaluation of strategy is so that we can be able to take remedial measures. And sometimes we think that the remedial measures only apply to when they are negatives. There are times where you start the year and your expectation is to produce 1,000 units within the year. And by the end of the first quarter, you've already done 800 units. You do not say that because I projected to do 1,000 units, I stay within those 1,000 units. You now must investigate what are the changes in the market that is allowing us to produce more. And once you are able to know and understand and realize that, then you can make your changes. That is the environment in which you must operate if you want to be able to achieve strategic control and innovation. It ought to be balanced. You must find the balance, and your ability to find that balance is what would ensure your continued success as a business. As I conclude, I want to say this. As organizations navigate this complexities of this modern landscape, you would realize that innovation, agility, has become a fundamental thing that all management strategies are looking at. We must find a way of creating that environment where it will drive that competitive advantage, enhance efficiency, and also foster a continued culture of improvement. And this should also allow organizations to be able to seize the opportunities that would come up within the strategic implementation process. Now, our ability to be able to merge these two critical aspects of management in terms of strategic control and the environment of innovation is what would position us to achieve long-term success. And it's important also that if you are leading or whatever position you find your company in, you need to be able to do this so that you can remain at your position if you are first, or you can grow and be able to take those who are leading you. Now, let me leave you with a quote from Brian Tracy. And it's actually the last part that excites me, but let me read. Brian Tracy says that practice the philosophy of continuous improvement. Gets a little bit better every single day. And that is the key to innovation and strategic control. Don't depart from the focus, but consistently navigate the environment, navigate new horizons, find new waters, find calmer waters, find those opportunities, but within that environment of a step-by-step approach to growth and innovation and improvement. So with that said, I want to say thank you. Ewuradwoa, if you are there, I think my time is up.
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Mr. Michael Abbiw. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Michael Abbiw, CEO of MGA Consulting Ghana Limited. Thank you so much for that thought-provoking presentation. Before we start our Q&A session, we want to take some ads, after which we'll zoom into our Q&A session. Thank you. right, welcome back. And thank you so much, Mr. Michael Abbiw, once again. And that was indeed an eye opener for me. My take home was the quote by Brian Tracy that says, "I practice the philosophy of continuous improvement, get a little bit better every single day." And as professionals, this is something that we need to write down because we need to get better every day because we are in a rapidly evolving world and we cannot stick to our old knowledge. We need to always be updated with what's going on and get better in each and every day. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let's take some questions. Our speaker is ready to address any issues we have. And so, if we have any questions or add ons, we can indicate it in the comment section and then I'll take them and then our speaker will address them. We have just some few minutes to go. And so, if you have any questions at all, you can just drop them in the comment section and then let's take them quickly. Okay, so I have one question here. All right. Okay, so Mr. Abbiw, if you're here, this question goes to you. It says that how do you balance flexibility with maintaining focus when monitoring strategies? How do you balance flexibility with maintaining focus when monitoring strategies? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, just maintaining focus.
Okay.
So, so the entire topic is about that. So I think that what the writer did, it's just using different words. But when we talk about strategic control, that is what we mean. It means remaining focused to implementing the strategy. And then when we talk about flexibility, it's about the environment of innovation. And if you look at some of the things we said, the first thing that I spoke about is making sure that you are clear as to where you want to go. So let me use myself for instance. So you start this year and then you set your objectives for the year, and the question is that I'm preparing for retirement. So the focus of this year was is not really about money, although you would have your revenue targets, but it's about developing your people, giving them a little bit more autonomy, and making sure that they are more able to deliver effectively to customers. So once you are clear about what is it that you want to do, now that becomes your focus. So within the year, whatever the changes are supposed to be, whatever flexibility that you want to allow, must be to achieve this. So if you have somebody bring in an idea or want to do something differently, the question is that would that lead you to achieving these aims? And if it will not lead you, that is where you do not allow it. So that's where the balance is. I didn't understand. Sorry, that's where the balance is. So within the environment of strategic control, or what we call maintaining focus and flexibility, the first thing is to be clear as to what is it that you want to achieve. So whatever innovation, whatever flexibility the person you must give to your people must be within the framework of achieving that. And if whatever flexibility you want to have doesn't allow to achieve that, then that is not allowed. But if it gives you and it leads you to your objective, then it's allowed. And that's one of the things that you want to do. Another thing too about allowing flexibility is the second thing I spoke about, is making sure that whatever that we say we are going to do, we said it together. So myself and you, that is where we agreed to go. It's not like I said we should go there. We agreed that this is where we are going. So why are you departing? I don't know if you understand. So yes, I'm flexible, but this is where we all agreed. And so if you want to depart, then you must have a very strong case on why you must depart from what we have all agreed to. It doesn't mean that you cannot depart, but it means that wherever you had the first decision, so if the first decision was five of us, you must come back to the five of us to say that based on my analysis, based on what I'm seeing, based on my projections, I think that what we all agreed on will not hold. And therefore, let's all agree again to change focus. If you do it that way, then it's not like you cannot change, but if you want to change, these are the structures that you must follow to change.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll move on to our next question from Raphael Agble. If I murdered your name, please forgive me. Raphael says, how will you put your suggestions on strategies to help your boss achieve his targets? How will you put your suggestions on strategies to help your boss achieve his targets?
So let me show you, what I did when I was a bit younger, and I was still. So I started environmental strategy at a very young age. By 24, I was within that environment, and so strategic thinking was very important. No boss would want to be seen as not be he's not thinking, he's not reasoning, and he doesn't understand. So one of the things is that whatever the idea you have, you must put it on paper. Don't just go suggest it, put it on paper. Make sure it is clear, make sure that you have thought about it very clearly, and then you put it on paper. The second thing is that you don't introduce this to your bosses where everybody is there. And even if it is something that is coming, off the cuff, the way you present it looks like it is coming from your boss rather than it's coming from you. Because if not, now the other thing too is that you don't want to antagonize your boss. In a meeting, if you have a strategy, you must find a way of slipping it through. Write it down, slip it to him. Nobody knows what is happening. He gets it, and he would find a way of presenting it in a way. If not, also find a way of now the written documents that you have. And that is what I did. At the beginning of every year, even before this whole concept about strategic plans for organizations, I would then put together the plan, what I think would help my department. And then I would present it to my boss and then request that if you are available, I would want to come and explain what I have to you. Now, one of the things that happened to me that might not necessarily happen to everybody, but it's a highly likely that it would happen, was that once I was very clear about what I wanted to do and it was going to help the team, you realize that your bosses will now say that, okay, go ahead and what? And implement it. But you don't do it in front of everybody. Suggest it. And sometimes also they can reject it today, but when they go and sit down and they think through it, they will come and implement. One danger and one thing you must avoid is this. If they come back implementing your strategy, it must never leave your mouth that you suggested it to him. Your time will come. I was talking to one of my staff. I said, I have written a lot of articles for my bosses to review and present in their name, lots of them. And today, one of them wrote an article, brought it to me as mine. Then I said, okay, you see, today my time has come. Don't worry at all. Tomorrow it will be your
Time.
time. Some people also would make inputs, would make suggestions that would help. So suggest it not in the open, and also don't antagonize them. There are times when they say do this, do what they say you should do, but also do the alternative. So you say, okay, this is what you asked me to do. This is it. But boss, I was also thinking we can do it that way. So I've done this one too. And then you realize that it becomes easier for them to accept.
All right. Thank you. You too, your time will come, Raphael. All right. Eric Abuaji wants to know, he says, thank you very much for an insightful presentation. He wants to know, please, Mr. Abbiw, who initiates a strategy? Is it corporate leaders, business owners, or all team members?
Okay, so let me answer your question, but still go further and explain some things. Number one is that it is initiated from the top. Every strategy of an organization is a strategy of the board. So it's the board that owns the strategy. They initiate it. But you realize that mostly they don't come down and do it. It's the management and the team that does it. And so when it comes to the general ownership, it is not for the board, but it's for all of us. But the initiation will come from the board. But by process, anything that is off the board doesn't really start from the board. They will give directions, and management will come and put it together and bring it to them for approval. So it is supposed to start from the board because policy and strategic direction is given by the board. And that now must now seep down to all of us. But we are all involved in strategy development. Strategy is not a document that must be developed only by management. Strategy is developed by every single member of the organization. And it is once you do that, that is where you have the collective buy-in in implementation of the strategy.
All right. Our time is fast spent. We'll take a few more questions and then we can draw the curtains for today's presentation. Okay, so Raphael wants to know, how do you marry focus, objectives, and innovation to bring about the needed results? How do you marry focus, objectives, and innovation to bring about the needed results?
So focus is really not, let's say, a strategic step, but it's basically it's an English language to say that you are congregating. So I would rather talk about vision, your vision and then your mission. They give you focus. They basically tell where the organization is going. So that is it. So the thing is this: your mission must be a short-term version of your vision. So the vision is long-term, and it's a dream. It goes directly into the future and has no timelines. Missions are mostly medium-term, objectives that one wants to meet, and then from that you develop what you call your objectives, and that's where you break that mission down to specific things that you would want to achieve. So basically that is the relationship. Now, innovation comes in this way, that whilst we want to achieve a revenue target of, let's say, $20 million, whilst we want to achieve an objective of ensuring that our staff is engaged and well motivated, whilst we want to achieve a target where our products are of the highest of standards, we must allow our employees and actors to be able to think through and bring ideas to allow for us to achieve that. So whatever thinking, so innovation must happen, but must happen within a framework. And that framework is those objectives and the vision. Remember, the objectives come from the vision. So that framework is the objectives. So you must stay there. I don't know if you understand. So you can innovate, but you cannot innovate in a way that would affect the quality we want to achieve. You cannot innovate in a way that would make the employees less engaged. You cannot innovate in a way that would make us not be able to meet our revenue targets. You cannot innovate in a way that we will not achieve our profitability margins that we want. So innovate, but innovate within this framework. And that framework is that strategy document that would then produce an implementation plan I spoke about.
Okay, you can innovate, but within the strategic framework. Raphael, we hope that that answers your question. We'll take the last question and then we can call it an evening. All right, so we'll take our last question from Justice. He says that, please, how do we deal with challenges when trying to innovate while maintaining control? How do we deal with challenges when trying to innovate while maintaining control?
So, so you see that justice has brought, the basic thing, and it's within those environment of challenges that we really find innovation, and one must also be clear what we mean by innovation. I don't know if you get me. It's about experimenting, taking risk, finding creative solutions. It's that freedom to think outside the box. And so that is clearly the environment of innovation. Now, one must understand that once you do that, there are various types of challenges, and I'm sure there are internal challenges and also there are external challenges that would come into play. And that is why maintaining control now becomes very important. So the whole idea is this: whatever you want to do, does it fall in line with the objectives that we have set for ourselves? Does it fall in line with the strategic initiatives that we have set for ourselves? And that is what is important. So you realize that when a budget is read, in the middle of the year, the finance minister will come and say, mid-year review, where they come and say that, you know what, we projected to do this. We projected to do that. We wanted to implement this and then wanted to implement that. However, the revenue, which then becomes a challenge we were expecting, didn't come through. However, the time we wanted to appoint the ministers, we were not able to get approval from Parliament. However, so they will list all the challenges, and based on that, we want to review these numbers. But one of the things you realize is that as they review these numbers, they don't touch the top line. And the top line will be to be able to create the enabling environment for businesses to flourish, to be able to meet the external or the debts when they are due, to be able to pay, to be able to have enough balance within our external credits so as to be able to import. So those things are then maintained whilst within the system we allow for that creativity and innovation. And that is the whole environment. The challenges will come, and it would mean that one ought to change the things they want to do. One want to or innovate, take some risks, look at some new products, introduce some new systems or service delivery systems. But all of them must align to what we hope to achieve, the strategic initiatives that we have within the year. And justice, that is one of the things that you need to do. Innovate, but be looking at what is it that we have set for ourselves and maintain and innovate within that space.
Sure. Yeah, I think even that boils down to me saying that you can innovate, but within the strategic framework.
Framework, yes.
Yeah, sure. All right. Thank you so much, sir. We are immensely grateful for your time with us. I hope that our listeners and our viewers have learned a few things to go and then shine out there in their various organizations. And as we have promised our community, every month we bring you this series just to give you some free content also there to practice wherever you are and then to build yourself to become an expert in whatever field that you are in. It's not just enough to be doing your job, but you need to also build up and become an expert in your field. All right. I can see some questions coming in on how to become a certified strategy professional. And that is one of our flagship courses as an entity, the Certified Strategy Professional course. We run this once every quarter. Our next cohort is upcoming to start on the 17th of May. If you want to have more details on our Certified Strategy Professional course, we'll leave our number. You can contact us or call. You can call or WhatsApp us on that number, and then we'll be glad to assist you on all the information you need concerning our Certified Strategy Professional course. This is just an eye-opener of what you would expect and what you would meet in that course. It's full 10 weeks tuition, solid strategy, and then we prepare you to become a Certified Strategy Professional. You can call or WhatsApp us on 0244 268672, 0244 268672. Contact us, call, WhatsApp us, and then we'll be glad to give you all the information that you need. We are also located at East Legon, the ILS Training Center. We are located at East Legon, just behind GT Bank, also on the Mensvik Hotel stretch. You can also pass by our office if you also need to contact us on anything at all, and then we'll be glad to assist you. So thank you all so much. We are also active on social media. You can engage with us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on Instagram. You can follow us on ILS Executive. We are active on social media. Follow us to get updates on our upcoming programs and courses. And so thank you all so much for being with us this evening. This has been your ILS webinar series. We will come your again in April. We'll come your way again in April to bring you some content on strategy. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you again next month. It's bye for now.